Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. In this week's episode, I'm going to do part 2 of the dual sport bike build. We're using the Honda 300 Rally as our base bike, and we'll just continue on with our description of all the things we've done to make this bike for long range travel and also off-road. As you can see, we've installed a rear master brake cylinder cover here. They're not super strong, but I believe they act more as a brush guard so that nothing can reach in behind there and pull on that master cylinder as it sticks up. In a heavy crash or a drop, it still may be susceptible, but it's better than having it not covered at all. Even an old timer like me is now using a smartphone. I gave up my flip phone a few years ago, and they've become integrated into your lifestyle so much that you use them for so many different things other than just a phone. And one of the things we've added here is the quad lock, which allows us to mount our phone to the bike. That allows you to use it as a like a backup GPS navigation. Because we have cardos, you can also receive phone calls. It's really quite handy to be able to mount your phone in a secure way. And I actually crashed with the quad lock on Sumo, and my phone survived that crash using this quad lock. So they're quite durable, and it's a great way to mount your phone to your bike. Another thing we've added is we use these Rok-Straps here to strap our gear down. We've been using exclusively Rok-Straps for some time now. They just work so doggone well. And even if the elastic portion gets kind of loose at some point, trash them and get new ones. They just work that well. I can't see using anything else at this point. One of the things I've added to the toolkit here is a cordless air compressor. I found this online. You charge it up, it's got an internal battery system, and it's supposed to be good for anywhere from like 30 to 60 refills. I've tried it, it works, it's pretty slick, and it's very convenient, and I can easily keep it in the tank bag, so it's really nice. Doesn't weigh that much, probably between 1/2 and 3/4 of a pound, and so it doesn't add much weight to the bike, and you don't have to mess with the cord. It's just really a nice little tool. One of the things we do is we keep a dry bag with the motorcycle cover inside it. Makes it easy to get to on and off. And I also, on top of the dry bag, I keep my rain pants here so I can easily get at it. So that's what this is all about. The next thing I did is I went ahead and removed the OEM seat. And the reason we did that is because the OEM seat was just too high for Sherry. So we're trying to lower the bike to where she can reach the ground. And we bought the Seat Concepts low seat and installed that. These Seat Concept seats are really high quality, and they've worked well for me on Sumo. And that did help us gain on that height of the seat, and lowered it just a little bit for Sherry. There's more to this, and I'll talk about it at the end of the video. The Honda CRF 300L Rally, or just the L version, regardless, is known for super light suspension. The OEM suspension is probably for 100-pound guys soaking wet. It just won't do for long distance travel or for anything rugged with a person that's like 180 pounds in gear. It's just not going to happen. So you are going to have to change the suspension. So I removed the factory shock myself and installed the Nitron R1 shock. This is a really high quality shock and does have adjustability with the preload. And even though it's just a basic shock and not necessarily adjustable, it is a very, very good shock. And so far, this thing is doing the trick. I really like it, and it was a huge upgrade to this bike. And while I'm down here, at the bottom here, you can see we've done a lowering link system from Kouba link. And this supposedly lowers the bike 1 3/4 inches. and I will talk about that again at the end of the video, because when you add the shock, it also raises the seat height. So there's a little give and take here when you start changing all this stuff. We also went with the Enduristan Monsoon Evo, or Evolution, I imagine is maybe what that stands for, pannier bags. These are really high quality bags, and the reason we went with the Enduristan, I have Moto on Sumo. Those are extremely durable, heavy, well-built bags. But everything about this bike, we were trying to make sure that it was extremely lightweight. These bags weigh probably less than half of what the Motos do. And they're well built. We're going to give them a try and see how they work for us. And that weight savings to me is well worth taking the risk on these and seeing how these work for us. I also installed these Outback Motortek crash bars. That was a pretty easily made installation. There were really no issues. It went on without a hitch, and these I think are actually a really smart idea the way they're designed, because they come clear up here to protect the upper portion of the bike. The only thing that's sticking out that may be susceptible would be your handlebars, but these look like they'll protect the motor, the front end of the frame, the forks fairly well. Continuing with the suspension upgrade, the shop made me a deal that if I brought the forks in, they would make the transition from the old fork insides to the new ones that I purchased. And so I went ahead and removed the forks, and then I took the forks to the shop, and they installed the Andreani Misano Evo fork cartridge kit, and that was done by a technician. And the reason for that is that can take some special tools of which I don't have, and it's just not a job I'm familiar with and comfortable with doing without more expertise. They did a wonderful job, and it just took them one day to do it. When I got the forks back, I went ahead and reinstalled them, but when I reinstalled them, I pushed them up through the triple tree so that I could lower the front end of the bike to match the rear end of the bike. And as you can see, it starts to make sense why you need handlebar risers to be able to do that job, because this would not happen if the handlebars were not higher. So for comfort and for lowering the front end of the bike, you need the risers. I've also removed the OEM side stand here and replaced it with one from a rally kit from England. And I can't remember the company off the top of my head, and I apologize for that, because I like to give credit where credit's due. But the tube is bigger in diameter, and it's got heavier thickness of steel. And so it's much sturdier. And again, I'll use Itchy Boots as an example. She broke her side stand and had to be welded. And eventually she replaced it, I think, with the same side stand that I've got here. But when I lowered the motorcycle with the lowering link and dropped the tubes, then this stand became too high. And so I needed to cut it off. So I went ahead and cut it off. And why I cut it off here at the bottom, which meant I needed a new foot for it. So I went ahead and fabricated a bigger, wider foot, and I just made it here in my garage with my vise and my grinder with a cutoff tool on it and my welder. Welded that back together and painted it. I'm sorry I didn't film that. That might have been something that you'd have been interested in, but it came out absolutely perfect, and I'm real happy with it. And that's a huge upgrade because it's sturdier. It's got a wider foot on it that looks exactly like the original almost, except it's at least double the size. And so that worked out really well. And if you've seen any of my other videos, this will come as no surprise to you. I made some custom Roto Packs mounts that clamp on to the crash bar here. And I basically made these the same way I did before, except these are much smaller to keep the weight down. I made them only as big enough as I needed to make them in order to fit the Roto Packs on, but I didn't make them as big as the other ones. And if you're interested in how I made those, you can watch the other video under custom parts. It's basically a different shape, but the concept is absolutely the same. It's just made to fit this particular crash bar set. And then I went and installed Roto Packs fuel containers on both sides of the bike. Last but not least, I went ahead and removed the OEM mirrors and installed the double take mirrors and mounts here to the bike. I've looked and looked for alternatives to double take, but I keep coming back to double take. They just seem to be able to make a really high quality product that works for our particular needs. One of the questions I'm sure to get is, how much were you able to lower the bike? And we used the seat concept seat to gain some lowering, and we also used the lowering link from Kouba link to lower it. But we also raised the bike when we added the upgraded suspension. Because it's stiffer, it holds that seat higher. So how much were we able to lower the seat from OEM seat height? And that turned out to be 1 3/4 inches, or 1.75 inches lower. Sherry can now tippy-toe the bike and is a lot more comfortable on it, because before she had to rock it back and forth and either use one side or the other to support the bike. Now she can get both feet on the ground. So that worked out pretty well, but putting the upgraded suspension will raise it. Another question I might get asked is, did it affect the handling of the motorcycle by lowering it? The answer to that is no. I've seen no noticeable difference since we've lowered the bike, because I tried to keep the geometry the same. In other words, I lowered the front end of the bike the same amount that I lowered the back end of the bike. That keeps the geometry basically the same, and I've seen no noticeable difference in the handling of the bike one way or the other. Well, I hope you like this two-part series on how we've done these upgrades and modification to a Honda 300 Rally to make it good for long distance travel, a dual sport motorcycle, and something that you can actually trail ride with if you so like. If you like this video, please give it the big thumbs up, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We'll see you next week. Take care.